Vampire Diaries, Defining Moments, Datherine. Summary. For those who are Datherine fans, here is a look at what could have been if Catherine hadn't told him that she never loved him. Chapter 1. The Return. It was a dark night at the Salvatore boarding house in the living room as David Salvatore stood in front of Pierce and Stephen Salvatore's sire, Catherine Pierce. I have one question. After it widened its back to rocket the fireworks, I forget the last 145 years I've spent missing you. I'll forget how much I loved you. I'll forget everything and we can start over. This could be our defining moment. See, we have time. That's the beauty of eternity. I just need the truth just this once. Stop. I already know the question and its answer. You've always been the one I loved the most, she replied truthfully, as she rested a gentle hand on Simon's face, looking up at him. He smiled, and she smiled back before they began to make out once more. The vamp sped to a wall as they made out, getting her up against the wall, her back against it. He began to kiss the white side of her neck. She led him and started taking her shirt off. He stopped to help her take it off before taking his off. They continued to kiss again, their kisses full of passion, joy, and lust. Chapter 2. Rose. Catherine woke up to see that she was in an unfamiliar house on the couch. She slowly sat up and then saw two vampires from her past, Trevor and her sire Rose. Hello again, Katrina, Trevor greeted her. Trevor, she said back. Rose. Elijah would be here shortly, Rose informed. She knew what this all meant. They were handing her over to Elijah to be given to class by Elijah. Once again, she was going to be handed over on a silver platter to class. This time, though, she wasn't a scared human. Instead, she was a vampire of 500 years with a price on her head. Why now? Catherine questioned. I'm a vampire. I'm useless in the sun and moon. For freedom, Rose replied. We're tired of running, Trevor said. Aren't we all? Catherine said. You just don't get it, do you? He won't let you both live. He'll kill one or both of you for helping me. You won't really be free. If there was a way to be free, don't you think I would have freed myself by now? Death is the only solution for your freedom. And whose fault is that? Rose questioned. I was trying to survive. Don't make this personal, Rose. Everything just has to be about you, doesn't it? Catherine Pierce, the survivor, the legend. By now, Rose was standing in the middle of the room, Catherine in front of her. You think you know, Rose, but you don't, Catherine replied. Enough, the voice said. They turned around to see Elijah Maxson, Niklaus' elder brother, also an original vampire, standing in the room. Everyone was silent, and Trevor and Rose went to stand by their stairs away from him, afraid of him. Even Elijah had a habit of making others fear him. Elijah stood in front of the former doctor. Katrina, he greeted. He gave her a small smile. Elijah, she grinned. What about our freedom? Rose asked. Elijah turned around and was instantly from Trevor. Then he killed Trevor with one swing and his head fell off. Rose then cried out in sorrow, losing her friend. Elijah looked at Rose. You are now free, he told her. Rose was silent. Elijah went to stand in front of Catherine again. You should go now. We have a long journey ahead of us. They didn't get to leave, though, because Catherine was saved when David staked Elijah. Catherine was relieved, and they hugged and kissed before going home to the boarding house. Chapter 3. The House Guest. It was a beautiful day as David sat on the couch reading John Gilbert's diary. They were trying to find out if John knew where Emily was buried, so they could find out how to permanently kill Klaus. Catherine leaned over the back of the couch, trying to read over her shoulder. What does it say? He am not where everything, she asked. Why are you still here? She asked, putting the journal down and looking up at her annoyed. Maybe because you haven't forcefully removed me. She sat down next to him as he continued looking through the journal. I'm starving, she said a few minutes later. He looked at her. You're the house guest. Go feed yourself. She silently went down the basement to grab a bag of blood from the cooler. When she had arrived by the cooler and had snagged the bag, she said something, so she set the bag back down and slowly followed her senses to the cell room they had a dagger Elijah in. She opened the door and walked in, only to find the dagger slowly coming out because of some unseen force. The force must have seen her because there was a stake thrown in her direction. She wasn't fast enough to avoid it, so she got staked in her chest. Damon! She yelled, knowing she needed help. She leaned against the rock wall as everything looked really dim at the big way. David rushed in to Susie. Catherine! He left, and then a moment later came back into the room with the fire machine. He then pointed it where something was making the dagger slowly come out. A moment later it stopped, the dagger still deep in Elijah's chest. David set the machine down and then was instantly at his side. He pulled the stake out and then gently pulled her to his arms and carried her out there. As he passed the cooler, he grabbed her a bag of blood. A few minutes later, he had her lying on her back on his bed. He sat down on her bedside and looked down at her, waiting for her to come to, for a bag on the table. When she woke up, he gave her the blood bag in which she drank. Later that night, he was sitting up in bed in his own room when she walked in. You know, there's one thing I just can't figure out. John said he was the only one who knew that Debbie was a witch. He looked at her as she sat next to him. I know you did, took her in. She looked at him. She was lucid. I like mine tied, she replied before adding. You're very rough today, as she edged towards him. I like this, David. They were inches from kissing. David put the book down. A moment later, they were kissing. Chapter 4. The Last Day. It was a dark night as Catherine walked into the boarding house. And when she did, she saw David in the hallway, stagger and then use a hand to put on the hallway table to keep his balance. She was instantly at his side. Are you okay, David? She asked for him. He rolled up his sleeve with his free hand to reveal something about his arm. She looked at it. What is that? She questioned. A werewolf bite. Tyler Lockwood bit me after I saved him from being sacrificed to cross ritual. I was taking him to the Lockwood cellar so he could lock himself up, he explained. Fear for his life went through her. No one knew the fear. She loved David. She didn't want him to die. She wouldn't tell him, but she knew so and he made no fear. She was scared of him, so she bid Stefan to fight the fear instead. This creature who should remove the fear was her enemy of 500 years. Klaus. Chapter 5. As I Lay Dying. It was a dark night as David staggered through the mystic fall streets. Very warm and sweating, not exactly himself. Meanwhile, Catherine was out looking for her elder Shade, having found that he was MIA. Once she found him, he began to hallucinate and pinned her to a pole, her back up against it. I choose you, Catherine. When he went for the side of her neck, she knew what he was hallucinating. Flashback, 1864. It was a dark night in the Mystic Falls woods as Catherine stood with her back up against a tree, human David in front of her. She used a fingernail to make a cut on her left collarbone. If you want to take it, she instructed, teaching him something she had always done as long as she had been a vampire. Take whatever you want, no matter the cost to others. He bent down towards the cut. I choose you, Catherine. She smiled, and in flashback. She rested gentle hands on either side of his head, making him stop, keeping him from biting her, making him look at her. Feel him as they didn't stop, she said gently. Catherine said, looking at her, realizing she had almost bitten her in the present, but he had hallucinated. I'm here, it's okay, you didn't hurt me, she assured him. He let her go and stepped back, which turned into a stagger. But she began to lose his balance with sudden weakness. She was instantly beside him and put an arm around him to help him. She then used her body weight to keep him on his feet. Let's go home, she stared. Half an hour later, he lay in bed with his sire wetting his face down with a cool wet washcloth. He was very pale and weak. As she sat beside him on his bed, she felt helpless. She was helpless next to him. She was his sire and girlfriend. She was supposed to protect, or at least save him, but all she could do was watch him slowly and painfully die. Her only hope was for Stefan to get secure and break into time. You should go. I could hurt you, he whispered. You won't. I'm here till the very end. I love you, he cried in susurration. Thinking this may be the last time he'd get to say it. I love you too. She bent down and kissed him before pulling away. He closed his eyes. Thank you, he managed to whisper. A little later, Klaus walked in with a bottle of blood in hand. She sensed a presence, so she turned to look, and was surprised that he was there with a pure sunset. I hate to interrupt you, Katrina, but here you go, he said, walking over to her. She took it from him. Stefan, she questioned. Oh, he's paying for this. But I'm glad to do the demons. See you around, Katrina, he replied with a red cheek. She turned back to David and uncorked the vial before putting it to his lips, letting the blood go down his throat. Half an hour later, he came to cured, and she told him what he had missed. Now it was time to get Stefan back on track. Chapter 6, Homecoming. It was a dark night at the Mystic Falls High School. Everyone was ready to take down class, but then Catherine found out that if David tried to permanently kill Klaus would succeed, then Klaus Hagrid would finish off David. So she had a heart-to-heart with Stefan, telling him to care enough to save David's life. When it came to that point, David didn't succeed because Stefan stopped him, saving both Klaus and David. But after that, Klaus released him from his compulsion. Stefan was free. Humanity switched back on. Chapter 7, The New Deal. Catherine woke up later that night, having gotten her neck snapped, feeling as if she had been regained. She felt weak and realized that she was tied to a post in an old barn. She saw that Stefan was there with a dagger in one hand and his phone in the other, which meant that he had done this to her. What are you doing, Stefan? She weakly asked him. Klaus is being stubborn, so I'm going to make him see it my way. He wants you alive, otherwise he will kill you when he had the chance. Your leverage. She knew what he was getting at. Klaus did what to have his family coffins. over, so Stefan was resorting to drastic measures. If Klaus didn't hand them over or make the deal to do so, Stefan would kill her, his own sire. Once again, her life was hanging in the balance. She watched as he called someone, overhearing both sides because of her vampire hearing. "Where are you?" Klaus asked. "I'll give you a hint. I'm in the middle of nowhere with Catherine. Now, I want you to hand over those coffins," he replied as he walked over to his sire. "Why should I?" "Because if you don't, Catherine won't live to see tomorrow." Careful to not let the blade or dagger touch him, he stabbed her in the chest. "What did you do?" Klaus asked, tearing between her pain. "I stabbed her in the chest. Sure, that won't kill her alone. But dip a dagger in werewolf poison, and it's just as effective as a werewolf bite. Or move it closer, and it'll go right through her heart." "No," she said briefly, knowing she was dying. "You wouldn't kill your sire," Klaus said. "You are bet?" Stefan replied. "I know my brother better than anyone but him right now. I don't know how far he's willing to go. So if he tells you to blink, I suggest you blink," David said. "Do we have a deal or not?" Stefan asked. "Yes, we have a deal," Klaus replied. "Good. You find her in the barn. I'll leave the cure here," Stefan informed them before him left. Stefan pulled the dagger out and left the cure on a stack of hay by the door before vanishing. David arrived in the barn to see Catherine tied to a post, head down a pail a mile of the cure not far away. He was instantly from her. He gently rested a hand between her shoulder blades and used his free hand to snap the ropes. He then caught her arm under her head between her shoulder blades, holding her up. He then gently laid her down on the ground on her back to retrieve the vial. He knelt at her side when he had the clear in hand and put her to her lips, making the blood go down her throat to save her life. When it was finished, he gently picked her up in his arms and then vanished for home. Chapter 8. Dangerous Liaisons. It was a dark night as Catherine started to drive through the mystic groves parking lots to leave for home. Suddenly she heard something from the top of her SUV's roof, so she parked it where she had it and got out to investigate. She turned around only to be face to face with a peeved-off original vampire of 1,000 years. She knew she was peeved because Catherine had literally stabbed her with a dagger. "Drive much?" the blonde gritted. "That's funny, considering that you're the one who jumped on my SUV, Rebecca. You know, you may be old, but you really need to learn how to let go of those grudges of yours. It doesn't do your looks any good," Catherine replied. "You really don't know when to stop talking, do you?" "Nope," she told Rebecca. A moment later they were fighting. It didn't last long enough, though, since Rebecca had 500 more years on her. Rebecca pinned her against the SUV, hand tightly around her throat. "Goodbye, Catherine," she said. Now, let's play nice." "Let her go," the new voice intervened. "Why does she always bend over backwards for you?" Rebecca said to her before letting her go and facing David. The cavalry arrives. How poetic. A moment later, Rebecca vanished. Chapter 9. All My Children. It was a beautiful night as David and Catherine arrived at the Leipzig ball they had been invited to. Klaus and his 4 siblings' mother, Esther, was hosting it. It was an elegant ball with fancy dresses, and all the guys were wearing tuxedos. Esther claimed that she wanted to reunite her family, and that she was proud of her children. The class in London didn't believe it, though they didn't tell her that. Throughout the ball, David and Catherine had a time of their life dancing together. For once, they were able to dance at the ball. They had never danced together at the ball before now because of how fast the events had gone. She had been absent for 145 years of his life. This was their moment to shine as they danced. Chapter 10. The Killer. It was a beautiful day as Connor walked through the tunnels to get away before being found. He knew that he had peeled off a 500-year-old mattress. He didn't want her to find him. He had messed with and threatened those she cared about. She was beyond peeled, and anyone who knew the legend of Catherine Pierce knew to hide tail and run if she was peeled off. When she found him, she arrived in front of him, backed out. "Stay away from my family," she warned in an angry tone, before biting him into the side of his neck, killing him, not knowing the consequences of killing more than 5. Chapter 11. We all go a little mad sometimes. It was a dark night as Catherine stood on the Ripley Bridge, being influenced to kill herself. All day she had been hallucinating her parents, them telling her to do it. She took her daylight bracelet made out of lapis lazuli that let her walk in the sun off, and let it drop on the bridge. She then waited for the sun to come up, and when it did, it burned her skin, but she didn't make a sound. As her vision went almost black, she sensed David, and as it went black for her. David was instantly there and caught her from hitting the ground. He then put her bracelet back on and gently picked her up in his arms, heading home. As he headed home, her burnt skin healed, which meant that she'd be okay. Chapter 12. Down the Rabbit Hole. It was a beautiful day as David stood in the cave with the rainbows tied around his wrists, binding his hands together, one rope around his neck. One of the 5 had a hold of the other end of the rope, standing a distance away. Just like everyone else, the guy wanted the cure. The cure was in a tube, Silas tube, where the cure was located at. "You clearly don't know my friends," David said. "Here's some rocks and some gum when you entered." Then when he saw Rebecca, he added, "For my enemies." David pulled on the rope until he had all of the rope in hand, and with a little more effort he managed to get free from the main ropes. The freedom was short-lived, though, because Rebecca was down with arrows in her back. He was tied against a wooden post by his throat with something that was remained. Suddenly Catherine walked in. A little later, she and the guy fought. Then, once the guy was beaten up a little, she started to untie the thing from around his neck. When she had finished, he told her, "You go first, I'll catch up." "Are you sure?" "Yes, go. I'll meet you in the tube." He watched as she went into the hole in the ground to be the first to get to the cure. David crawled over to Rebecca and pulled the arrows out her back. Then, once he felt that he could go on, he jumped into the hole to also find the cure. Half an hour later, David and Catherine found Silas' tube and stood at the ancient table, where Silas slept with the cure for baptism. It was in a box. She carefully removed the cure, and both vampires slept with it. Chapter 13. I know what you did last summer. It was a beautiful night as Catherine walked into the boarding house. She entered the living room and grabbed herself a shot glass of bourbon before sipping it when you put David to come home. She had just had the worst night she could have possibly had. She needed David. A few minutes later, David walked in. "What happened to you?" he asked, looking at her. She set the now empty shot glass down and looked at him. "I had a fight with Rebecca, and she shoved the clear down my throat. I'm human." He bent his wrist and held it out to her. "Here." "No, David," she cried. "No one's taken the clear before. There's a chance I might not wake up. That's not the risk I'm willing to take. Are you?" He put his hand down. "You got the point. I don't want to take that risk any more than you do." They smiled at one another. Chapter 14. True Lies. It was a dark night as Catherine sat in a chair in a room, using a piece of wood to stab the lamp over and over in order to keep her mind off Cyrus' compulsion. Cyrus had compelled her to weaken David and then kill him. She had already weakened him with the lamp, but she was trying her hardest to fight the compulsion, so she was setting her mind on pain instead of killing her boyfriend. What felt like an hour later, she didn't feel the pull of the compulsion anymore, so she stopped giving herself pain. She then untied David from the chair and they left to go home. Chapter 15. Dead Man on Campus. It was a dark night as Catherine stood on the clock tower, which was in the town square. She couldn't outone time, so she was going to jump off the clock tower to end her own suffering. She was dying of old age because time was catching up with her. Besides, she was tired of running from her enemies. She had ran from Klaus for 500 years. She was done running. All she wanted was for this to all end. She closed her eyes and then jumped. A moment later, she felt wind as she plummeted towards the sidewalk. A few minutes later, she felt as if someone had caught her. She opened her eyes to see that David had caught her. He set her on her feet. They looked at each other. "What the hell are you thinking?" he asked her. "I want this to end. I thought if I died, it would all go away. I'm dying of old age and it can't be stopped. Time is catching up with me. I'm worried about time," she explained. "We'll figure this out, but you should have told me. Let's make the most of it, shall we?" She gave a smile. Maybe this wasn't bad. It's like a new version of Romeo and Juliet, their story. Chapter 16. The Cell. David woke up in a cell, Catherine in a cell beside his on his back, out cold. He knew without a doubt that he was back in the Augustine Vampire Society way. This time around, though, he was accompanied by his now human sire, Catherine. He sat up and wished his arm through the bars to wake her to make sure she was okay. She was human now, so it was easier for her to get to bed. Besides, he loved her and knew that no matter what, he had to protect her. "Catherine, wake up, Catherine," he said as he gently shook her. A few minutes later, she came to. He stopped and brought his arm back inside his own cell. She slowly sat up and then looked at him. "What the hell? Where are we?" "Welcome to the Augustine Vampire Society." "I get why Maxwell would capture you, but why me? I'm human now. Maybe you must have been a different experiment on you. You didn't used to be a vampire." "We have to go down here," she said. "I know. We'll go down here. We just need to find out how and make a plan." They got to their feet. She looked at him again. "How did you get out last time?" A beggar opened the door before the fire started. David informed her. Weston came in and shot David before taking Catherine to his experiment lab. When David woke up in his cell, Catherine relaxed him with God. He knew what that meant. She was able to be a very long person. He got to his feet and started looking for a way out of his cell, knowing he could be doing anything to her. Catherine was on an autopsy-like table, a tube into her arm that went into a bucket, weak, vision blurry and dim. She could tell that she was in West Lab, and that she was doing something with switches and something liquid. Beyond that, she didn't know what exactly was going on. When she found the lab, David threw Wes away from his sire and took the tube out of her arm and took off the metal restraints for her wrists and ankles. He then gently picked her up in his arms and carried her out any home. Once in his room, he gently laid her down in his bed and sat on her bedside, waiting for her to awaken. When she came to, she was in David's room in his bed with him sitting on her bedside. Also, she was very better than she had been in the lab. Chapter 17, 50 Shades of Grayson. It was a dark night as Catherine walked down the stairs to get something to drink. Suddenly, half down the stairs, she felt a sharp pain on her left arm that moved to the left side of her chest. She put the hand there, and it was as if she couldn't breathe. She didn't know what was going on, but she guessed that she was dying tonight. A moment later, she collapsed and fell down the stairs. Then everything went black for her. David was in the living room when he heard a thud from the stairs in silence, so he went to investigate, only to find the love of his life on her back at the bottom of the stairs. Catherine. He was instantly at her side. As he knelt beside her, he listened for a heartbeat with mad hearing, but couldn't hear anything from her, so he figured that she had had a heart attack. Half an hour later, David was at the hospital, standing outside the room, watching the doctors try to revive her after her heart attack. After 20 minutes, they were able to revive her, and she was settled into the recovery room. Chapter 18, 500 Years of Solitude. It was a dark night as David walked into his room where she was confined to bed rest. She was supposed to take it easy. Hey, she agreed with a smile. Hey, he agreed back. He sat on her bedside. Did it agree better, he asked. Well, would you if you were in my situation? Good point. What do you want? I'll give you whatever. Just name it. How about a drink, she suggested. I'll be right back, he replied. He got to his feet and left to get her a shot glass of bourbon. He couldn't stop himself from thinking that this could be her last drink. He poured a shot glass of bourbon and headed up the stairs to her. Once in his room, he sat on her bedside and handed her the drink. She took it and began to slowly drink it. He watched her silently, wishing he would stop her from dying. Soon she had finished. She sat the empty shot glass down on the end table. Now go to sleep. Don't worry about me. I'm staying right here with you, he told her. She smiled and he smiled back. She laid down on the covers on her back and closed her eyes. He knew her time was close, though it hurt to watch her die. He stayed beside her and never leave her. Though he could stop her death, he couldn't ease her pain, and so he did. He went inside her head, reliving the happy memories and taking away the painful ones, pushing the painful memories to the very back of her mind. Before he knew it, she was gone. He left her head and looked at her in grief. He bent down and kissed her on the forehead. Goodbye, Catherine. That was the best he could do, because he had never been good with farewells. He never liked goodbyes. He knew, though, that he would see her again on the other side whenever that day came.